The Winter's Tale is one of Shakespeare's late plays, written around 1610 or 1611 and published in the first folio of 1623. It belongs to the group of works often called the Romances, plays that blend tragedy, comedy, and redemption into a single sweeping narrative. Its mixture of jealousy, loss, forgiveness, and renewal makes it one of Shakespeare's most haunting and surprising creations. The story begins in Sicilia, where King Leontes rules with his gracious queen, Hermione. Their close friend, King Polixenes of Bohemia, has been visiting for 9 months, but now wishes to return home. Leontes urges him to stay, but when Polixenes declines, Hermione warmly persuades him to remain longer. What seems to others a moment of courtesy suddenly strikes Leontes as betrayal. Without evidence, he convinces himself that Hermione and Polixenes are having an affair, and that her unborn child is not his. This suspicion grows into obsession. Leontes orders his trusted courtier Camillo to poison Polixenes. Instead, Camillo warns Polixenes, and the two escape to Bohemia. Furious, Leontes publicly accuses Hermione of adultery and imprisons her, despite the protests of his lords and the sorrow of their young son, Mamillius. In prison, Hermione gives birth to a daughter. Loyal Paulina, a noblewoman, presents the infant to Leontes in hope that the sight of his child will move him to mercy. But Leontes rejects the baby, declaring her illegitimate, and commands Antigonus, Paulina's husband, to abandon the child in some distant place. Hermione is brought to trial, and a message from the oracle at Delphi declares her innocence and proclaims that Leontes will have no heir until the lost child is found. Leontes refuses to accept this truth. At that very moment, news arrives that Mamillius has died of grief at his mother's treatment. Stricken by shock, Hermione collapses and is reported dead. Leontes, devastated, realizes too late that he has destroyed his family. Meanwhile, Antigonus takes the infant to Bohemia. There he leaves her on the shore, naming her Perdita, meaning the lost one, before being chased and killed by a bear in one of Shakespeare's most famous stage directions. Exit pursued by a bear. A shepherd and his son discover the child and raise her as their own. The action then leaps forward 16 years. Perdita has grown into a beautiful young woman, unaware of her royal heritage. She has fallen in love with Florizel, the son of Polixenes. At a rustic sheep-shearing festival, their romance blossoms, but Polixenes, disguised among the peasants, discovers their secret. Outraged that his son should marry a shepherd's daughter, he forbids the match and threatens the shepherd for allowing it. Once again, Camillo intervenes. Longing to return to Sicilia, he helps Perdita and Florizel escape, guiding them to Leontes' court. There, their true identities begin to surface. The shepherd produces the tokens left with the child, proving Perdita is Leontes' lost daughter. Joy replaces sorrow, and Leontes sees in her return the possibility of redemption. The climax of the play comes when Paulina reveals a statue of Hermione. The onlookers marvel at its lifelike appearance. Slowly, the statue begins to move. To everyone's astonishment, Hermione is alive, preserved in hiding by Paulina until this moment of reconciliation. The reunion of Leontes with his wife and daughter is profoundly moving. The play ends not in tragedy, but in forgiveness, as broken families are restored. Jealousy and obsession, Leontes' sudden, groundless jealousy mirrors Othello's, but where Othello ends in death, The Winter's Tale offers eventual redemption. Shakespeare shows how suspicion can shatter lives and yet still leave room for renewal. Redemption and forgiveness. Central to the play is the possibility of atonement. Leontes spends 16 years repenting. In the final act, forgiveness, though hard-won, becomes possible, offering a vision of grace and healing rare in Shakespeare's darker works. Time and change. The play famously leaps forward 16 years, with time itself appearing as a character to mark the passage. This device highlights the transformative power of years, allowing suffering to mellow into wisdom and young love to rise from old tragedy. Nature and identity. Perdita, though raised as a shepherd's daughter, reveals natural nobility, raising questions of whether our fates are shaped by birth, upbringing, or inequalities. The pastoral scenes contrast innocence and renewal with the corruption of Leontes' court. Death and resurrection. The apparent deaths of Mamillius and Hermione frame the play's tragedy, but the miraculous revival of Hermione suggests hope. Shakespeare balances grief with rebirth, moving from winter's loss to spring's renewal. Pastoral comedy and courtly drama, Sicilia embodies jealousy and ruin, while Bohemia embodies fertility, comedy, and rustic charm. By weaving these worlds together, Shakespeare presents a full cycle of human experience. When The Winter's Tale first appeared in the early 17th century, audiences were unsettled by its sudden shifts. From intense jealousy and tragedy to rustic comedy and miraculous reconciliation. Today, this daring structure is seen as one of its strengths. The play captures the unpredictable nature of life, where grief and joy, ruin and renewal sit side by side. The play's themes remain powerfully relevant. Jealousy, family breakdown, and the corrosive power of suspicion are issues as familiar now as in Shakespeare's day. Equally resonant is its vision of forgiveness, that time and love may heal even the deepest wounds. Exit pursued by a bear has become iconic, both comic and unsettling, symbolizing Shakespeare's ability to shift tone without losing coherence. The statue scene has inspired generations of directors who experiment with its ambiguity. Is Hermione's return a miracle or a carefully staged illusion? Audiences are left to ponder the mystery. Modern productions often highlight Perdita as a figure of hope, representing the power of the younger generation to mend the errors of their elders. In literature, theatre, and film, the story's trajectory, from suspicion and loss to reconciliation and grace, has inspired works that explore how love and time can redeem human folly. The Winter's Tale, written around 1610, 1611, and first published in 1623, stands as one of Shakespeare's most remarkable late creations. It shows the destructiveness of jealousy, the long reach of repentance, and the extraordinary possibility of forgiveness. Its journey from winter's tragedy to spring's renewal remains one of the most moving and hopeful arcs in all of Shakespeare's plays.